Welcome back to Delta Waterfowlers, the voice of the Duck Hunter podcast. I'm your host, Joel Brice, with another exciting episode that was recorded at Delta's Duck Hunters Expo in Oklahoma City. Here's a question worth considering. Are we taking duck hunting too seriously? That's a question we'll hear answered by two passionate and respected waterfowlers, Ramsey Russell of GetDucks.com and Ryan Yarnell of Turtlebox Audio. We'll also dig into what makes a duck hunt meaningful. Is it about numbers, or is it something else entirely? We also dig into waterfowling nostalgia, favorite places, defining success, and whether the modern pursuit of ducks has lost touch with the romance that first drew so many of us in. These are two guys who've chased ducks across continents and countries alike, and their perspectives might just change how you think about and enjoy your next hunt. With that introduction, let's get started. Ramsey Russell, Ryan Yarnell, welcome to the Delta Waterfowl podcast.
Glad to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, Ramsey, welcome back.
Yeah. Yarnell done drug me into this thing here now, and I'm like, I didn't realize it was going to be in public. We're out here on the showroom floor with all this going on. It's amazing. But I thought, a lot of times when you record, you're in this private little room.
Yeah.
I'm good at dragging people into things they don't want to do. So.
You are good at drag. You drug me through some stuff now. Yeah.
Well, that's
We've had an
fantastic.
adventure or two, so.
Yeah. No, it is a little bit different. But, hey, my trick is just to tune it out and just focus on you guys. And I appreciate your time. We appreciate your time, and just kind of share some of your thoughts and experiences. And I call these organized BS sessions, so we'll get going. But for the listener, I think kind of the theme, and then we're going to get into introductions to you guys, but the theme here is, we all go hunting to harvest ducks. Absolutely. I make no apologies to that. But I think that the central question for this particular podcast is, are we taking duck hunting a little too seriously? And so we'll unbox that a little bit, and I want to pick your brains, and you can share some of your thoughts and experiences. But let's get going. Ramsey, you probably don't need an introduction, but you're going to get one anyway. The owner and founder of GetDucks.com. And Ryan, you probably don't need much of an introduction either. The hunting marketing manager at Turtlebox. I don't know if I could pick a company in this space that's taken off any faster than Turtlebox.
Oh, my gosh.
We've been very blessed. We have a great team, and we're all working really hard, moving at a fast pace.
No doubt. It's, I think growth can be a really challenging phase for any business, any conservation organization. But it's good to have some sharp sticks on staff, and
that starts with good leadership, and we're blessed with that in the Turtlebox. Good, the founders are amazing humans, and they've done a good job of hiring the right people. And I always say they must have been real desperate. Somehow they ended up with me on their staff, but here we are. So.
Yeah. Ramsey, one of the little secrets maybe about you, maybe it's not, I don't know, but certified wildlife biologist and forester.
Yeah.
And I always thought that's interesting. You've switched from, just kind of I don't want to say you've left the conservation space, because of course you haven't. I don't think you can, but you left that, that structured employed biologist forester and got into this life of adventure. But give a little bit of introduction to just a real fast 60-second, who's Ramsey Russell?
Ramsey Russell's a guy that did go to forestry and wildlife, a hook and bullet biologist that wanted to do something like that. And at Mississippi State University at the time, to be a wildlife biologist, you went through the forestry program because wildlife management was predicated in forestry, right, silviculture. And I got out, I worked for the federal government, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. That's the long and the short of it. It just wasn't my cup of tea. And then, so here I am. I broke about midway through a career. I left to chase a dream, chase ducks around the world 24/7, and here we are. That's just it in a nutshell.
Well, that is a nutshell. Ryan, how about you? Has duck hunting been a part of your life, the entirety of your life?
All my life. My father was a big duck hunter. I've missed one duck season since I was 9 years old. So, that's what we did. He was a bass fisherman, a duck hunter. He was an outdoorsman, and spent a lot of time in East Texas in the woods of Arkansas, hunting and fishing, and went to college. Left college, became a whitewater rafting guide, traveled most of the North America, a little bit maybe South America, running rivers, and we'd go home back to Arkansas back then for duck season, and had a good core group of friends that I grew up with that were also just good public lands duck hunters, and that's what we did. And and here we are to the day. I still duck hunt as many days as I can, and I've been very blessed in the outdoor world for sure.
That's great. Describe your journey to Turtlebox.
Oh goodness! Well, like I said, I spent a lot of years, running rivers from East Coast to West Coast in the United States, and from there stumbled into some other jobs. Worked in the farms industry for a bit, somewhat ran a ranch facility out of Wyoming, and worked for a really awesome small boutique company called Vormy for a number of years, running their sportsman's category, and then and was fortunate enough to get hired by Turtlebox run the hunt community for those guys. And so the long or the short, that's that. But just a lifelong public lands hunter and mostly a waterfowl hunter, and somewhere along the way that kind of grew.
But I'm gonna jump in on his answer and say I can tell you his journey in one word: people. People.
Yeah.
And it goes to the heart of the topic you're talking about. Are we taking it too seriously? People. He's a people guy. Mm-hmm. He's whitewater rafting. He's duck hunting. He's deer hunting. He's working with these companies. There's not a human being on this floor that Ryan doesn't know or doesn't know yet. He's a people person, and that's why a company like Turtlebox was begging to have him come on board, because he's that people guy.
Look at it. You're blushing, man.
It's the truth.
Ramsey, I appreciate you, my friend. Obviously Ramsey and I are good friends, and I'm a big fan of Ramsey's. And, that is the truth. At the end of the day, the Lord blessed me with the gift of gab, and, developing friendships has been something that's always come pretty easy for me in life. And, I assume, Turtlebox did not hire me for my necessarily marketing skills. They hired me for my community skills and my friendship skills. And it's been a good run so far. So, I'm blessed with that. Like I said, it's been a lot of my life just as a guide, as my adult life, whether it be hunting, fishing, whitewater, done a little fly fish guiding, done a little duck hunt guiding, a little big game hunt guiding. Also just working, doing habitat stuff, working on ranches, whatever it took. And it's been a great journey for me. I love the outdoors in any aspect, and the Lord's blessed me in so many ways. And so, yeah, it's been fun. And, I stumbled across Ramsey Russell in Canada many years ago, and as he tells it, I had this big, loud, jacked up, souped up diesel truck and lots of lights on it, and here we are blazing through Alberta, Canada, very early in the morning, missing deer by inches and killing a lot of birds. And again, that was back in the time. I think that was when we were hunting Canada, early September.
Yeah,
it would snow and sleet back then, and it seems like that weather's changed a lot in those last years since that all started too. I feel like these days I'm in Canada in October and I'm putting decoys out in flip-flops.
We would go out on that hunt. We would go out on that hunt, leave an hour, 2 hours before shooting time. We had to set up decoys, go to the field, blah, blah, blah. And the guide staff would go out and set everything up. We would just navigate to the point. And Ryan jump in the truck, we'll go with me. And all I remember was a blur out the window. There goes pronghorn and deer and lights and just talking. And it was just so crazy how, I've always said this. Where else can you really get to know somebody other than going duck hunting? I can't get to know anybody sitting out here in a booth on a showroom floor or maybe a dinner table or something like that, but then getting in a duck blind and getting in a truck with somebody and going hunting. And we became just instant friends. I think by the time we made it to the first blind, it's like, man, I'd have met my brother from a different mother, and Ryan Yarnell. And, boy, he could bob and weave through them deer that jumped out in there. I'll tell you what, I was impressed with his driving skills.
Well, as you said, it was like a blur. I'd say, some people say my life is like a blur. It's moving at a fast pace a lot of times. And but, yeah, that was a good hunt, and we did make a lifelong friendship, and we've had some pretty good adventures since then. And here we are today sitting here at Delta Waterfowl recording a podcast together, and this is, again, another great blessing. So thanks for having us, by the way, Joel.
Yeah.
Delta.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I just kind of want to, I think this is important. Ramsey, you've hunted ducks on 6 continents. 120 waterfowl species that you've pursued. So let's just say you've been around. And I think that's kind of central to some of the conversations that we're going to have. Ryan, I've heard that you've traveled all over North America at least as a waterfowler. Have you hunted internationally?
I've hunted ducks in Canada, and I have not hunted ducks anywhere south of the United States. So just up north, and so nothing like Ramsey. Obviously, we talk about Argentina and places all the time. And
But you've been to Argentina.
I have been to Argentina.
I went down to La Paz at time.
I mean, I shot some ducks while I was dove hunting one time in Argentina. But yeah, so I've been to Argentina. I've been to those places, but not for ducks specifically. I mean, you know, Ramsey's obviously traveled worldwide, and as I say to so many people, he has more knowledge on duck and duck habitat across the world than anybody I've ever met, and I would hold that to be true. I just asked him, Thursday night, how many species do you have left that you have not hunted or been able to harvest? I don't know anybody that would be even close.
I don't think there is anybody.
Yeah, which is wild.
I don't think there can be.
You know, that's pretty wild. I mean, he's put the time in and the miles. I can tell you that. Him and Char Dog have seen a lot together, so.
Poor Char.
Yeah. No, I have to ask you this question. So, you know, for guys that have traveled so extensively, and you in particular, Ramsey, like how do you keep duck hunting fresh? Or, you know, how do you not let those destination experiences, those high caliber experiences, how do you keep it from spoiling, let's say, a public land duck hunt in Mississippi or somewhere?
Look, you know, people ask, I'll answer it, start like this, I get asked a lot, what's your favorite duck hunt? You've been all over the world, what's your favorite duck hunt? This is the God's honest truth, the next duck hunt. I don't care if it's a duck blind I've been in 1,000,000 times or a brand new part of the world. That time, that period of time before the sun comes, you know, if you ain't early, you're late. You get there, and before you've even loaded your gun, that period of time, not knowing what the day is going to bring, is like an unopened Christmas gift. Mm-hmm. And that is the essence of it. So that is my favorite hunt. There are some destinations that I love. I mean, I love Argentina. It's a second world economy. An overwhelming amount of the population lives in the greater Buenos Aires metropolitan area. So when you get out, it's like 100 years ago in America. You know, you get remote places and wild places and undeveloped places that you can go and experience wild duck hunting in a wild place. And I love that kind of stuff. But how I keep it fresh, because I do it for a living. So you do it, and you do it, and you do it, and you do it. And it does get a little dull. You know, it's like you go to some of these high volume destinations, and I'm the guy that shoots, and I'm going to tell you right now, about 2 boxes into it on my second box, I'm done. I've had enough. It's not about that anymore. It's about something different. The species or the people or some cultural nuance is how I keep it fresh. It's just it's a newness that I'm chasing, and nothing does it for me like just somewhere wild and untouched. And you know, it's getting hard worldwide to find somewhere that's wild and untouched anymore. But that's what does it for me. You know, it's and the stories and the people. I'm gonna go back to that word, people. You know, it's man, I work with all races and creeds and religions and colors and of people and humanity. Pakistan or Africa or a Native American reservation in North America or where. And it doesn't matter, because in the moment that we're all sitting there waiting on the sun to come up and legal, in that moment we're all just duck hunters. And that's what keeps it fresh for me.
Yeah, I remember a year ago we were in this podcast booth. Terry Denman.
That's right.
And you, I think it was a year ago.
Last year, yeah.
Well, that's the fourth Expo. But I remember you were talking, which I thought was really cool. Like, it's something I never really thought about. Some of the places you go, there's a language barrier, like a spoken language barrier. But yet you talk about your ability to communicate with them regardless. You
can, but because duck hunting is a universal language, and I get into that all the time. We're Azerbaijan's a favorite.
That's one of my favorite stories.
They don't speak English at all. I mean, and Google doesn't help much. I mean, you can say little simple sentences, see spot run, and it'll translate that. But you can't have a long run-on sentence like we do. But it doesn't matter, because they are duck hunters. Like, I've got one of my favorite guides over there. His name's kind of pronounced Tofi. It ain't spelled nothing like what it sounds. And like we're push poling out into this marsh, and he don't want the light on. He's listening to the waterfowl, and he's interacting with the birds, the marsh hens, and the nutria rats, and everything. He's talking to them and getting them fired up. That when he walks off into that world, that is his world, and he's taking me with him. But we don't speak the same language, and like sometimes he wants the decoys in a certain way, and I want them in a certain different way, and it's a negotiation without speaking a word. But we get along perfectly. He's been duck hunting since he was 8 years old. I don't mean duck hunting for sport, like us taking our kids out. I mean duck hunting to eat and to subsist. Mm-hmm. That is how they still feed themselves, and it's just a higher level of duck hunting. And I learn something every time I hunt with him. But he learned something too. He did not like a spinning wing decoy for poachers, and I just insisted because nothing eats up a mojo spinner like a poacher, and that's what we're targeting there. A lot of these red-crested poachers. So he goes reluctantly and puts it out on the water, and I'm sitting there giving him hand signals, and reluctantly he moves it to where I want it. And buddy, that first flock of red-crested poachers come whooking around right into it, and he gave me 2 thumbs up. So we learn from each other. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? But it's just it's a fun process. I really do. I call it the universal language of duck hunting, and you don't have to speak words. I had a client one time show up that was real frustrated in Azerbaijan because he doesn't speak English, and I can't communicate with him, and this is not working. I said, you don't have to. You're a duck hunter. He's a duck hunter. Just go with the flow, and it'll work out. And it did. It worked out just right.
That makes a lot of sense. What keeps you going?
Well, first, I want to backtrack here and say I'm going to remember when next time I'm taking Ramsey on some kind of adventure, and he says the best hunt's the next hunt when we're dragging a boat up the river with a hole in it, and the boat's about to sink, and he's thinking I'm going to get him killed
and
somewhere.
No ducks.
Drown.
Yeah.
And, well, we shot some ducks, and we found a bunch of ducks. But
let's tell that story now. Come on, Ryan. So Ryan said, I'm making one of my road tours, and I'm passing through, and he says we're going to go hunt the river. And that's it. That's his bread and butter right there.
Undisclosed location.
Undisclosed location. But we go to this river, and that's totally different than, say, the Mississippi River or the White River or the Cache River. Totally different. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's shallow water, but I don't know how shallow it's supposed to be.
We're in Montana where I live, so we're far from the south.
Everybody calls him Tex, but here we are in this boat he's got. I don't know what kind of boat that was.
I mean, it was an outboard jet boat, 18-foot jet, and one of the many boats I've destroyed over the years, and that boat's long since gone, and I'm on to another one, but, I just said, hey, I got a spot we're going to go. It's, we're going to run a number of miles, quite a ways downriver from a boat ramp. It's 70, 80 miles between boat ramps on this river, and so we're going to go a long ways, and we had extra fuel and whatnot, and I said, it's going to be a while before we see the ducks. Well, we've gone 10 miles, and he's looking back, and he calls me Redbeard, Ramsey does, and he's like, Redbeard, I don't know. He said, we've seen 4 or 5 ducks, and I was like, just give it time. And
well, if you've ever seen this boy running down a river full throttle in a jet boat on plane, with a long ponytail and his beard coming back like a red-bearded pirate, in the wind. I mean, they call him Tex. Some people call him Yarnell. I call him Redbeard. That image is stuck in my mind forever. And when you're hunting that kind of environment, you're driving and driving and driving until you find the ducks will tell you where they want to be.
Right.
Because when you round the curve, there might be a few, but when you round the curve where they want to be, oh boy, that's where they want to be. So we finally get there.
Yeah. Nonetheless, we had to go through some very shallow water, an area that I had to run the boat through. It was a lot of rocks. It was a very low water year, and we slid over a big rock. I didn't think much of it. Well, we finally came up to a sandbar, and we jumped, 6,000 or 7,000 mallards probably got off this bar, and Ramsey looked back and goes, well, by golly, there they are. And I was like, I told you we'd get to them at some point, and we hit another bar. Well, anyway, we stopped, and we're idling, and we're talking, and I'm like, let's figure out what we found, like a few less birds, right? And I was like, this ought to be just 2 of us, and we got Char Dog and my big lab Clyde, and we're like, let's figure out a place to set up. Well, as we're idling and looking, I look down the boat, and I'm already ankle deep in water. As soon as we started idling, I was like, we got Houston, we have a problem.
And he's like, man, we're taking on water. I think I knocked a hole in my boat. And I go, and look, we are in BFE, Montana. we are 20 miles from the nearest whatever. I mean, we're just in the middle of nowhere. And I go, what are we going to do? He goes, well, first we're going to duck hunt. We're here.
We'll worry about getting home later.
Yeah.
I
So
get home
I was like,
later?
we're gonna shoot some of these ducks first, and we're both shooting 28 gauges too, mind you. And here, so I pull up to a bar and I throw everything out, panel blinds, decoys. I say, get everything out of the boat as fast as you can. I mean, it's taking on water fast. I was like, we have a big hole. I don't know where, I don't know what, and at this point I don't care. I got the bilge pump on. I'm sitting there. I was like, all right, get everything out. I throw it on the beach. He goes, what are you gonna do? I said, I'm gonna run up river and find the shallowest water sandbar I can find and run this boat up on it so it can't sink. And so, anyway, I do that. We get everything out, and I run. I get all the water out. You know, when I'm running, I realize the hole's obviously at the transom somewhere because when I'm running, all the water's coming out of the boat. And water, you know, the boat gets empty again. I get it light, running as shallow as I can. And, you know, I was a good way. You could see the boat, but it was a long ways. And so I walk back down. We set up. We hunt. We shoot lessers. We shoot a couple of honkers, shoot some mallards. Dogs do good.
Beautiful hunt.
It was a cool hunt.
Beautiful
Set up
hunt.
on a bluff of over the river, shot down on, you know, you're shooting them at like eye level when they come in.
that's cool.
You know, yeah. And so, anyway, I walk back up, and this is where I'll start giving Ramsey a hard time. I walk back up, and, well, the boat has settled into the sand, you know, in the river. I mean, we were only there a couple hours. Now, mind you, this is midday because it's such a long ways. We left at, 9 o'clock in the morning probably. It was more of a scout mission, but, of course, you find that kind of ducks, we're going to start hunting them. I'm realizing we need to get out of here. We got a long ways to go upriver. Well, nonetheless, I go back. That boat is buried in the sand. I'm heaving and hoeing back into it. About time I get it moving, here comes Ramsey. You need some help? I got the boat off the bar. Where were you 45 minutes ago? I mean, I got everything stripped off. I'm sweating. And, you know, anyway, I got it off. We go get, you know, everything, and we start running back upriver. Well, then I suck a rock into the impeller. And I know I don't have time to stop. And at this point, we're back in kind of the canyon.
Because if you stop, the water starts pouring
in the boat. And I was like, well, we just had to limp it along. And so I just started going, you know, tacking from eddy line to eddy line. And at some points, we were even dragging the boat. Like, we would have to stop. And, I mean, you know, the motor's about to overheat. And we would be walking. And Ramsey's like, I can't.
And we're in real shallow water that you could walk across with waders on. But there is as much water inside the boat as there is outside the boat.
And it's
I'm
swift current.
It don't look normal.
Yeah, and so and there's nothing. You know, it's not like you can just get out and walk. I mean, you know.
There ain't no cell phone signal.
Yeah, and
I think this is what you call a conundrum, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So nonetheless, he's like, "Are we gonna make it back? Are we gonna make it back?" I'm like, "We're gonna make it back." Well, about sunset, we make it to the boat ramp, and that boat limping along. And anyway,
How many gallons of water? I mean, seriously, it's like I knew we were taking on water, but I had no idea that there were like. There was places on that boat the water could get.
the problem is those boats got foam in them, right? They're not going to sink, but when you're in current and water, it's much different than being in the lake.
Might
In
drag,
the lake,
yeah.
you can just move a boat. You can just put along. We're going up against the river, and with a boat full of water.
With all that weight, all that water in the boat, you can't get up on plane to get above
Well,
the
now
gravel
the
bed.
boat, the rocks, there's a rock in the impeller. We're not getting on plane anyway. I mean, I can't do much of anything but idle it. So where the current was, where we could go, we went, and where we couldn't, we pulled, and we made it, and we got out. We ran into some old boys from North Carolina, and they had a boat with an outboard, and they had hit a rock trying to run the river with an outboard, which you can't do. So they'd bent their prop shaft, but their boat would idle along enough in some deep water in this one area that we ended up hunting with them the next few days. We shot a few ducks with them. It was fun. It was quite the experience. We met these old boys. They invited us along. My boat was, oh, by the way, I have videos, but the hole in my transom, where the transom and the bottom of the boat made, it tore a hole. I could put my hand in it. I mean, it would.
Oh, yeah.
It was big,
It was
like a cannonball
It
big.
just tore the weld wide open, and unfortunately, they don't make a lot of jet boats that I can't tear up. I now have found one made out of Canada, so
That you haven't tore up so far.
I've had it for 3 years.
Just wait till I get up there with you. We'll figure out a way.
Taking a beating, but nonetheless, we made it. It was a great hunt, a heck of an experience. We ended up recording a podcast for Ramsey and talking about that, and it was. Just another day duck hunting. And the point of all that is, what keeps me ticking? Sunrises and sunsets, fellowship, spending time in the outdoors with your friends, adventures like that. I started this with a joke, as in I'll remind Ramsey the next time he says the next hunt when I'm having him drag a boat up the river full of water. But
That comes with the territory, though. That just
That's
comes.
it.
That's part of it, man.
I think people know you come hunt with me, there's no telling what you're going to get into. Most likely you're going to kill something. If not, it'll be a great experience, or it won't be. But
Yeah, you know what I like about that? And by the way, thank you for that entertaining story. I kind of felt like I was there with you a little bit. And,
well, we could have used your help, Joel. You could have helped push that boat up river
Yeah,
or something.
exactly. We could've used another-
strong back, weak mind, right? But what I love about that, and it really does make a nice transition into the rest of the conversation, is, Ryan, you didn't mention how many ducks you killed. It had nothing to do with it.
No.
Now,
I couldn't tell you how many we killed.
No, but we killed enough. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, the ones we killed, they did it beautifully. The fact I remember us shooting, them lessers came in, and we shot them with 28 gauges, and we both shot well. Ramsey always shoots well. I can't say the same for myself, but I will say Ramsey's one of the best shots I've ever hunted with.
No pressure or nothing.
Yeah, I preach that across the nation, but nonetheless, it wasn't about that. You know, we had a heck of an experience, and it was just about two buddies that were going on another trip. And had you hunted Montana before that, Ramsey?
I think so. I never hunted the river like what we did. I think, I'd hunted before.
It's
Montana.
interesting. He's never come back wanting to hunt the river, so
I just hadn't looped through there. It's coming. I'm coming back through Montana for just that right there. It's a wonderful going out in that part of the world and hunting. But back to your point, Joel, about I could go back and look at my hunt proof out and tell you how many we shot.
sure.
But it doesn't matter. You know, I mean, I'm as guilty as anybody else of being a slave to the numbers. Because duck hunting, because there's limits and bag limits and all this, it is, because of the way it's designed, a numbers game. But it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
And it's so funny after all these hunts and all worldwide and whatever you want to qualify about the duck season somewhere life experience. When I look back, I don't remember numbers because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many ducks you killed.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I just want to lay this out here, just so I'm not pulling you guys accidentally in a direction you didn't want to go, but there's something special about a limit. Don't get me wrong. I'm after a limit.
A limit is a stopping point.
I'd love to harvest ducks. Don't get me wrong. We are not talking about that. It is great to pursue a limit, but I have this concern that's been creeping into the back of my mind. Now I think it's in the front of my mind for the last 5 to 10 years, is that I'm a little concerned that limits are defining whether hunting is worthwhile.
Defining success.
Yeah.
right.
Defining a passing grade or something. And you know, I think when I was younger, I was that guy. I let it define me.
Oh, I'm sure.
And
all
now
of us.
I could give. I don't care. It's beyond. It's not. It's a stopping point. That's all it is. It's not. You know. And we know one time I talked to a state biologist in the state of Mississippi, and they've been doing boat ramp surveys of duck hunters, and he's like, God, man, this was 15 years ago. He's like, man, these duck hunters they're unhappy, they're disgruntled, they're not, whatever. And he said, they're not killing the limit. He said, how can we make them happy? I said, cut the limit in half.
Yeah.
He said, well, how does that work? They shoot
yeah.
fewer ducks. I said, it's easier to kill 3 ducks for a limit than 6.
Well, I mean, I think that's a big topic these days, right? It's like nobody's killing 6 ducks anyway. A lot of times, I shouldn't say nobody, but you know what I mean. I mean, you go to Arkansas, and every boat ramp's got 1 million. If the water's in the woods, I mean, I was raised in these woods as well, and I'm glad everybody's there. But I mean, if the water's in those woods, there's a lot of people there, and there's not a lot of ducks there. A lot of times, it seems.
Yeah.
And so, why not cut the limit down? Take some pressure off. People just spend that much longer staying out there in the woods in the day, calling at 3 ducks trying to come in, or shooting at 3 ducks trying to come in, and maybe you can kill your 3 instead of 6. You get out of there a little sooner, take a little pressure off. More boats are out of the woods, and the ducks get a little more relief. And I don't want to. Obviously, we're on touching on touchy subjects in a sense with people, but same thing. I mean, it's the quality of the hunt, right? I'd rather shoot 3 ducks that did it right than 10 ducks that I had.
Duck hunting worldwide is a very subjective experience. Mm-hmm. It's very subjective. I mean, I could send 10 guys go to this lodge in Argentina together, and I can talk to each of them independently, and they all tell me something different they loved and hated about the hunt. You know what I'm saying? Because it's going through their very personal experience of what they, and that's the way it is. But I think that if anybody listening is just there just to shoot dead ducks, if that is the defining, if that's what defines duck hunting is body count, you're doing it wrong. And it's going to be short-lived because I don't care where in the world you go, if you're hunting wild ducks, there's no guarantees. It's all about the approach. It's all about the pursuit. I'm sitting here looking at a friend of mine from Illinois out in the crowd, Doc Leonard, who hand carves decoys on a spot on the him and my buddy Pat Gregory, man, they'll turn out 300 hand carved decoys out in front of this blind to shoot one or two divers because they're diver, and see that's their heartbeat. Is the bluebills, the canvasbacks, the odd redhead. That's a lot of work for just a couple of ducks, but that's a defining moment. And I think that all of us should have that approach to hunting. Hey, if the duck guys give it up, we can shoot 6 of them in one lick.
Right,
Great.
let's go.
But if they don't, it doesn't make you a bad hunter or a bad Indian. It's just it factors beyond your control. You know what I'm saying? But it's your approach and your mentality and your mindset for what defines that duck hunting. I know hunting with Doc and Pat a couple of years ago. Oh boy, did we see clouds of divers flying, and enough came in to keep it interesting. But it was between the volleys, the stories that we were all talking about, and talking about the carving, and talking about the different approach to hunting. You know, I mean, diving hunting. That's been to a Mississippi boy. Diver hunting, big water is a foreign concept. It might as well be like duck hunting on Mars. It's so different. But that's what the magic of it is. You follow what I'm saying? It's not about numbers. If it's about numbers, you're just doing it wrong.
I agree. Ryan, I think social media is such a powerful influencer out there in the world. And right or wrong, and we're just going to continue right over top of this PA here.
All good.
But right or wrong, I think social media gets a lot of the negativity attached to it in terms of defining hunter expectations, trends.
Well,
how do you feel that the role of social media and hunter expectations?
Well, look, for starters, it would seem with social media too, you can have 500 positive comments and you can have one negative, say on your personal, or you're reading on something else on a company's. Everybody's going to fixate on the negative. It's weird how that works, right? I mean, like I said, you will be more drawn to that one comment over the other gazillion. Sure, social media is a very powerful tool. I think it has. It's driven a lot of money to duck hunting, which is a good thing. I mean, boats and duck calls and decoys, and it's driven a lot of youth to duck hunting. I think there's a real powerful way we need to all use social media also to help people understand that, again, it's not just about going out there and trying to, if you got a treetop, your limit, and, you're shooting into big groups or whatever it may be, whatever your ethics, how you see it. I think there's a good way to make a good movement trying to happen now to try to teach people, to do better about pressure and things. And again, make the hunt about fellowship. It's not always about, everybody loves to brag. Even myself, again, like Ramsey said, I remember when we stayed all day to kill our limit every time, like back in the day. Of course, there was a lot more ducks. It was I shouldn't say it was a lot easier, but I guess it was. I mean, but there were those times you ground it out. You stayed all day to shoot ducks. Well, I don't do that anymore. I'm not going to stay all day to shoot 2 more ducks because that's just that much more pressure and that much more time out there, But I don't know. I love that it has grown. I love what social media does, but it is it's a double-edged sword, right? There's a lot of growth out there. I was raised by a father who, let's be honest. I was raised by a father who hunted ducks in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. He probably didn't have the best tactics either. They shot them, and they didn't ever think that was a resource that would go away. By the time my dad was 70, I think they were looking around going, all right, they didn't talk about conservation. Not like we do now.
Right.
I mean, I'm 46 years old, and I talk about conservation often with friends. I mean, there's like this young lady we just mentioned, this girl in South Dakota who's, getting farmers to stop and pick up the eggs before they run over them when they're running a combine to harvest hay up in the prairie pothole regions, Nobody was talking about that. I was raised in Arkansas, and I think I didn't even know there was ducks anywhere but Arkansas. And we killed them, At 12, I had my own 870 Wingmaster. Well, at 9, I guess at 10, I got an 870 Wingmaster for Christmas, a 20 gauge. We just went, and we shot, and we hunted, and no one thought about the difference. And here we are today with a much bigger growth, social media, limits, pile picks, this whole thing. And, again, this powerful tool can be used to also teach people that there's better ways to do things. And I guess my point of that with my father is he did teach me how to hunt, not to step on people's toes, that kind of pressure and stuff. Again, their ethics may not have been the best when it came to limits sometimes and things, but as they got older, they saw the reality of it. So, I hope that people can start, like with mud motors. I grew up, we had outboards. the lake I grew up on is all bodark stumps. You had to motor slow, and you had to walk. Hydrilla grass, all these things. You had to walk in these holes. Now with surface drives, I mean, you can just run wide open into everything, and these ducks just don't have a place to hide anymore, you know. And these kids, I don't think they realize, they're like, well, the ducks are just sitting over there. We'll just go bump them up so they'll fly and we can shoot them. Well, that's just more pressure, you know, and you're just bumping the ducks off, and then they just leave. And I think that's, you know, pressure is the number one enemy to waterfowl. And I think at this point, everybody's pretty much
disturbance and hunting pressure. And the crazy thing about it, I had a conversation just the other night with some young Arkansas friends of mine. They're on the floor exhibiting. But, you know, hunting Arkansas public, for example, the three of us are off in a pit blind in a rice field, and we shoot 3 limits of ducks. Great. You may only shoot 2 or 3 in the timber, especially with the crowds out there. But, man, every single duck you shoot in that environment is landing in your lap, and it's magic. And so, you know, the approach and the zeal, if you're driven by numbers instead of by experience to be out there, you're kind of missing the point. You know, it's about the art. It's about lighting the ducks, landing the ducks, working the ducks. That's the art and the magic. I mean, you know, so many times I've hunted in those habitats where the ducks are breaking through the trees. We forget to shoot. Right. You're holding your breath, and it's so spellbinding watching those mallards filter in through the trees. And a lot of them are on the water for anybody thinks to shoot. That's the point that you miss if you're driven and governed just by shooting numbers. But talking about social media, there's what's that old saying that comparison is the thief of joy?
Oh, yeah.
That's the downside I think we all feel in social media, and it's we're comparing ourselves. Or we feel that we need to hit this benchmark of comparison to be relevant, but it's a myth. It's an illusion. Social media is an illusion, and it's like this. You take a picture, and the average picture on a cell phone on a bright sunny day is 1/1500th of a second. Click, just that one little instant of a second. That doesn't tell the 2 hours or 4 hours or 8 hour day that went into that hunt. It's just a snapshot, and I like to use the example of Disneyland. You ever taken your kids to Disney?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. $17 Coca-Colas and mile-long waits to get into a roller coaster ride. It's hot as Hades. And, you know, but there's your neighbor sitting there smiling like a bunch of goobers. They're having their time of their lives while you're sitting there working and cutting your grass and doing everything else. You go, man, that lucky son of a gun. Yeah, what I know, having been there, is that Mama threatened to whoop little Johnny within an inch of his life if he didn't quit bawling and smile for the camera. You know, and they paid the $17 drinks. And, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Disney's fun, but by gosh, that one smiling picture don't tell the whole story of going to Disney.
Right.
So you're kind of missing the point. Comparison to what? You know one of my biggest competitors, and I love competition. You know who my number one competitor is? Me.
Okay.
I want to shoot better than I've shot. I want to call better. I want to perform better than I've done, because I know I'm never going to be the shot that some of the people I've seen shoot, or the caller, or the decoy carver. There's a lot of things I'm going to fall short of. I just want to do better than myself, and if I can do that, I win.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Ryan, I'm curious about something, and we're kind of under the umbrella of meaningful. Like that was a good hunt. I really enjoyed that hunt. Do you ever hunt alone, Ryan?
I do sometimes hunt alone. Well, just my dog and I.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Does a meaningful hunt, can it be different when you're hunting with someone than hunting by yourself?
Absolutely. And look, you know, I'm a talker. I'm a social person, as we've discussed. One of my favorite things about waterfowl hunting that I think we missed touching on earlier, what keeps the drive, is also being able, the banter in the duck woods. I'm going to tell a quick story. I ran into some friends here, Shoot Outdoors. My buddies over there. And last year we went out there and did some content. They have one of the oldest duck clubs in Arkansas. It's like, as far as I know, 1927 or something. Super cool place. Well, we're hunting ducks, and they're just working the trees. It's kind of foggy. You know, they just don't want to get in this hole. They just kind of, you know, diddling around and then leaving. Well, we have this one group, and we're calling, and we're working them, and the boys from Migra, Wade Shoemaker, who I think you had on this morning, he's in there, and David Yanello over there, and the guys that own the place, and the camera guys going, and these ducks come over, and their feeder broke out, and they came over the tree, and I pulled over, and Wade's going, no, 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 no. And I pull up, doom, 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 shoot 3 times, miss all 3 times.
I've seen that happen.
Oh, yeah, hey. And I'm that guy that when you do that, I will be on you like white on rice, and I just put my gun down, and Q-Tip looks at me, and he said, son, I wish we could have captured the look on your face. And I just said some choice words to myself because the ducks hadn't done it all day, but they came so low. I mean, they were way killable. But these ducks were going to probably do it. Of course, you never know, but
Right.
I would say this group was probably going to fall in the hole. And here I ruined it, and everybody's looking, and I'm just sitting there, head hung low, and I'm like, again, I'm the guy. If you did that, I would be wearing you out. They knew they didn't have to say anything. All that being said, the banter. And here I show up to Delta Waterfowl. Duck season was how many months ago, and boy, they're on me. They were telling. I was introducing people. Let me tell you about this one hunt we went on. Again, nobody tells about the positive hunts. They don't talk about when I shot a triple, but they were quick to tell when I missed. That being said, those are like my favorite things about. Some of my favorite things also about hunting. And I know I got off course from the question, but
No, that's good.
the banter behind it. Hunting by myself is always special too. And, reflecting. Another one of my favorite things is watching my dog work. At the end of the day, I really just want to see a duck. I want to shoot a duck for him. It's not even.
Right.
It's not as much joy now as I'm not like I gotta kill. If I'm up without my dog, I probably don't shoot half as much. Because but when my dog's there, I want him to get those retrieves in, and he's good at his task, and so that's pretty special too. But
Yeah, I do think, I'm going to kind of wander here for a second, but I do think social media, I do think hunting with other people, for me, it does have an influence on what I find as meaningful, because here's what I find, and here's my test. I do hunt by myself a fair bit, me and the dog. But I find that my standards are a lot lower when I'm hunting by myself. If I'm hunting with a group of people, maybe there comes the shoveler, and maybe with a group of guys, I'll let it go. But maybe when it's by myself, I'll shoot it because it's just that experience I want with my dog. Or if I didn't get anything, or if I got fewer, or if it was a bad hunt, or whatever. I just find that I'm so much more satisfied.
Yeah.
And I think part of it too is that, and I asked you guys earlier, like what keeps hunting fresh for you. The theme that I find through hunting is, I'm one of those people that emotionally I'm very affected by other people. I want to say, so the 3 of us went hunting. Your satisfaction, Ryan, would be really important to me. I'd want to give you the better spot, whether I knew you or not. But
same, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, that's how I felt after I pulled up and made the shot. That I would be so mad if somebody else did.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm very affected by that in a good way.
Yes, I get it.
But when I go by myself, I have this freedom, this escape. I can't consider anyone else's feelings because they're not here. I don't have to worry about those things. And I do find that helps me keep hunting fresh and makes me look forward to that. I don't want to say it's an escape because I like my life, but I don't know. There's just some of that part of it too. And I guess I would encourage everybody to find that one thing while you're chasing the limit. Go after it. Don't apologize. But what is it? I challenge people to think about what is it that keeps hunting fresh for them. The same question that we all shared with our answers with the listener.
Joel, when I hunt by myself, I never miss. It's crazy.
Isn't that the case? Isn't that the case? That is. Hey, I want to ask you guys, nostalgia and tradition, it's kind of, we spend a lot of time at Delta talking about the hunter recruitment space, bringing new hunters. And one of the things that we say is that we're trying to recruit people from a generation of people that don't have a hunting mentor. So guess what? They don't have tradition. They don't have nostalgia. So that can be a bit of an alienating word when you're trying to recruit someone. When you start talking about nostalgia, it can make someone feel like on the outside looking in. But amongst us guys who have, hunted and been around for a while, what are some of the nostalgic elements of duck hunting that maybe have disappeared and you wish were still there? And it might be a challenging question, but are there parts of duck hunting from days gone by that you miss?
For me, yeah. When mallards fell into the timber all the time.
Getting ducks, that was
well, you know what I mean. And it was. I have a lot of fond memories as a child. Just hunting being much different. With a father who could hammer down on a call, and I thought he was the king of the world. And but that would be some of the nostalgia. Obviously, looking, we went the first night on Thursday night. We went to the coat banquet.
Yeah.
Looking at the history, duck hunters in the 1917, not market hunters, but duck hunters, and the old coats they wore. I mean, and my golly, look at what we wear today. I know this isn't necessarily the ways of old, but I mean, people must have really loved it. To hunt in Wisconsin and stuff.
Oh yeah.
I think what you're talking about is a recurring theme, because I've had this conversation 2 or 3 times since coming to Oklahoma City for Delta Waterfowl Expo. You know what's missing to me? In the absence of mentorship, granddad, dad, especially those old guys, that old generation. The world's greatest generation was who my granddad was. He was a part of that fabric, the part of the people that did roll up their sleeves and form wetlands conservation and waterfowl conservation and put some of these things into practice. But I think it goes back to if you're chasing numbers, you're doing it wrong. It's what I see in public land, and I do hunt a lot of public land. I see what I perceive as a lack of respect.
Yeah.
And I think that I was raised. I'll try to say it in a story form real quick. One time, we went from the South way up north to Boston, and my kids were teenagers, and we were around an older couple, and my kids were raised to say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. And one of the ladies got, no, I'm not a ma'am, I'm not a ma'am, I'm not a ma'am. And she almost kind of got into it with my mini me, my middle son. I said, whoa, Barbara, this isn't about it. It's not a function of age. In the South, we raise kids to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. It's a show of respect for others, because if you don't respect others, you cannot respect yourself. And I just see what I perceive to be a lack of respect for others, respect for self, and respect for the resource being expressed in the quest for the almighty numbers to put on Instagram. Mm-hmm. And I think we're doing it wrong. I'm just seeing. But, boy, my granddad would have thumped my head, or my dad would have whooped me,
He did whoop
like
me.
a rented mule if I showed that level of disrespect. I can remember my grandfather back in the generation that smoked. I can remember him walking out to a public place and sitting on the boat ramp and smoking cigarettes. All the old men that were paddling out in the cypress break were waiting on it to get light enough to see, so they didn't hit a cypress log. And he wasn't gonna hunt that day, but he was sitting there talking. And they were all sitting there talking like, well, if you're going to hunt over there with your kids, I'll hunt over here. And if you're going to hunt over there, we'll hunt over here. They all got along. And that was just a lack. It was a show of respect for themselves and each other. And that's, in a word, some of the nostalgic aspect that I think is missing more on the modern landscape than former generations. That's me. And I'm not trying to offend nobody. I'm just saying that's what an old timer like me sees.
Well, I mean, that's, I don't know, my father and them, we'd pull into a hole, or somebody pull into a hole that we were in, and we would just invite them to hunt. If it was 2 people, 3 people,
It didn't have to be confrontational.
Of course, back then, I think, now we're seeing more of that, too. I know a lot of good friends that hunt public lands, timbers, and I think that, again, this message is starting to get talked about. If it's ways of the old or not, people just are starting to have better stewage of the land and try to be better mentors to whoever it may be. It was kind of something, I was talking about earlier, having a father as a hunter, and a lot of these kids, I didn't quite get that point across, but yes, a lot of these people hunting today, I shouldn't say kids, just young men, whoever, young women, they weren't raised by parents that hunted, and so they're kind of stepping into a role, and they just get maybe you go out, you get a boat, nothing wrong with that, it's great, but they don't know maybe they don't know the do's and don'ts in a sense, and so again, that messaging, as Ramsey just said, just something old school. It seemed like people were much more polite. There were certainly plenty of aspects that probably weren't back then, but for the most part, it did seem like it was more of a gentleman style deal.
Yeah, I think somebody on one of the earlier episodes recorded here described the competition between hunters in a way that I had never really considered before. But basically what he said is, go to a football game. He goes, rival teams. They're battling it out. They're beating each other up for a couple, 3 hours. He says, what do they do after the game is over?
Shake hands.
They shake hands,
That's
right? And you're right. Like, as long as there have been hunters on this earth, they have been competing with each other, right? No doubt, but
Before social media, that's for sure. People were
absolutely.
like, I got a bigger deer than you.
So I do think that is maybe a sign that people are taking hunting too seriously. Like, somebody beat you to a spot, your life didn't end.
That's right.
That's right.
And hunters are competition for each other, but like I've heard, I've been asking people these questions, so I'm hearing more of the stories. But the one that makes me feel so good is somebody, and this isn't a one-size-fits-all because there's not always enough room, but somebody beat you to the spot. And if there was room, they invite you in, or vice versa. Or you know what? Maybe there's no room, and you just say, good job, you got here first, and you move on. But man, if hunters could maybe not take themselves so seriously and think of that guy the way two football teams shaking hands at the end of the day would be doing that. So I'd like to see a little bit more of that one for sure.
I mean, I know there's plenty of times I pulled in the woods and someone beat me there, and a few times anyway. And we just had some buddies had this story the other day as well that, again, the competitive side was you go and you say, hey, they've been hearing you shoot them, say, in those areas, and they found their way, or maybe they just found their way. But you're like, you guys want to hunt together? And they're like, no. They kind of shun you off. There's no doubt the competitive side that you go, okay, and you move over and you go a couple hundred yards away and you kill your limit 15, 20 minutes with your buddies and motor back through them purposely or by them, not purposely, but you're on your way out and you're like, an act of kindness is not that hard. And at the same time, inside you're like, you kind of got your chest puffed, even though I don't put my ducks on the top of the boat, I put them in the floor. But they hear you shooting, and you're like, hey, we could have all done this together. So
That's right.
A little bit of competition sometimes, but, that kind of defeats the point of what we're talking about, taking it too serious, because there I am again, guilty of taking it too serious. But you're trying to be kind, and, and sometimes people aren't.
Yeah,
There's a lot of competition.
But, at the end of the day, we're human. Guess what? It sucks when somebody steals your hunting spot. It does. But
it's not like they stole it, right?
But
Everybody's
put it
got a
into
right to be there.
perspective,
Yeah,
right? Put it into perspective. Wade Shoemaker, you mentioned him before, but he told a story earlier today about actually one of his best friends now. They met through a not-so-great experience in the Duckwoods.
Right.
The guy was just mad at him, thought he was hunting too close to him. So, Wade went up to the guy's boat, didn't even know who he was, didn't even know where he was necessarily. And, after an argument, they settled down, hunted together, and he said they took an Uber from the airport to the show. So now they become best friends. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Perspective helps, right?
Yeah.
That's
So
right.
I want to ask here, and the reason we're having this conversation is I care deeply about the future of hunting. You do, Ramsey. You do as well. But I guess at the end of the day, if the focus is too much on the limit, and if that's the bar, right, what that means is that if a hunter is starting to feel burned out or disillusioned with hunting, because maybe that's their measuring stick, what advice would you give a hunter who's in that spot where they're like, you know what, I'm not killing enough ducks, I think I might be done? What advice would you give them?
Hunt somewhere different. Go see some new territory. I mean, really, just just put yourself in a new environment where there's something fresh. And I say the same thing. You asked me last year, where's one place I would suggest going? Most people listening, most duck hunters are hunting off the edges, somewhere in the center between the two oceans. Go hunt sea ducks.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I say. Go somewhere new, go somewhere different, and find some novelty.
Ramsey says book a trip with getducks.com.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, call, or U.S. Hunt List. Give us a shout, take a look. We'll put you in touch with the right people. But go hunt some new country. That's just it in a nutshell. I'd say go not necessarily a new country, but somewhere different. Get outside the element, and it's I think I'm changing the subject now. Kind of saying this is like in the same token that the best of shots, because we're all such instinctive shooters. Sometimes your timing gets off, and all you can do is keep pulling the trigger till you get your timing back.
Mm-hmm.
Take a break. Take a few days off. Take a little reset. Hunt a different angle. Instead of shooting them coming to the timber, shooting them in the rice fields, go past shooting. It'll come back. And so I just say transition, pivot. Pivot's the word I'm looking for, and go try something new. But don't quit, man. I mean, golly, there ain't no reason to quit duck hunting. I mean, we're blessed. We're blessed to have it, and having hunted worldwide, I think we're especially blessed with species diversity. No other country has got the species that we have right here in North America. No other continent has got the species diversity, or the sea duck, or the dry field, or the pond, or the deep timber, or the cypress breaks. I mean, the myriad of ways that we can hunt ducks. Try something different. That'd be my advice. Or find somebody new to hunt with. Go sink a boat with Redbeard.
I have one of my best friends from high school, and one of our best duck hunting buddies, passed away now in his early 40s. Just a random accident, but his name was Joe Tyler, and we always laughed. Every hunt was the best hunt with that guy. You could shoot one spoonbill, and we'd freeze to death, and he would be grinning like we killed 70 mallards in the timber. Every hunt for him. And I always try to remind myself of that when I get frustrated. I mean, my own self, right? Sometimes when the grind becomes long, and every hunt was him was the best hunt. Every hunt, and we all my buddies, we always try to remember that, how Joe was. I mean, he just come out of there grinning. We're like, we killed one ringneck, and he was like, best hunt of my life.
I bet he was a fun guy to hunt with then, right?
He was
That's right.
amazing. He was that guy that, he had a pretty strict wife, and so that guy that would like smoke a bunch of cigarettes and stuff. Like the one day he got free to go hunting, and then he would be drinking mouthwash all the way home. He was just one of those. He was a very unique character, and boy, we love that guy. So he was. But like I said, every hunt was the best hunt.
So when he got the opportunity, he packed it in.
He did. I mean, he would have a couple cold beers or whatever, but he went full throttle, and then he would go home and go back and we might see. He's one of those guys we hunted with a lot, and then as life, children and things came, he had less time. But boy, when he made time, he got it all in, and that's what I said. I mean, every hunt was the best hunt.
And I got to make another pass because the guy he's talking about it's a mindset, right? And the worst hunt, the best hunt, the average hunt. It's pouring down rain. It's cold. Whatever. At any time, no matter where you're sitting, while you're there in the blind with your friends or by yourself, out in the Lord's glory, having the opportunity to hunt, just ask yourself, ask myself, where would I rather be? Where would I rather be than standing right here with the opportunity to duck hunt? I don't want to be back at the office. I don't want to be sitting in a chair watching HBO reruns.
Right.
Where would I rather be? Right here. And that in and of itself is something to be thankful for.
I mean, some of my most memorable hunts of my life were not about the ducks we killed. It might have been that we almost drowned. It might have been that we almost froze to death. I can remember times just a few years ago that we were killing our limit, 3-man limit in the green timber of Arkansas, and I couldn't even load my gun. It was so cold. You know what I mean? But it was like we got it done in, 20, 25 minutes. We get 3, you're shooting well if you can get a shell in your gun. But things like that, I mean, it was miserable walking in, walking out, but those are some of the most memorable hunts.
I mean, hindsight is 20/20. We all agree with that. Hindsight 20/20. And those hunts that we all feel like we live for. You and 5 or 6 of your buddies, you go out, you can do no wrong, and in 26 minutes, you got 6 limb, pop, 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 it's dead. What?
And it's over in 26 minutes.
That is not something you're going to talk about, like
Right.
being on a river. Or freezing to death, or some heroic retrieve your dog made. I mean, that's beside the point. There's no story in that. I mean, and it gets lost to a guy like me all the years later. It just gets lost and forgotten. That's not where the stories lay.
No, my wife has taught me a lot of things, but one of the things that she's taught me is that think of all of your memories that you've collected in your head. The ones you can recall have the most emotion attached
That's
to them.
right.
Like I think of the memories like a file cabinet, and you have all the little tabs. And I think one of the things about duck hunting is duck hunting takes you to a time of year in conditions that can often be miserable, right? Waves, wind, rain, cold,
Snow.
everything, right? So that's one of the things that I think I love about duck hunting is those duck hunting memories are so powerful, right? And that's all that we've really talked about, right?
That's it.
And that recall, and my sister-in-law, she's a wonderful person, but she asked me, why do you take pictures of all your dead ducks? And it was like if it was an ego. And she says, when we go shopping, she goes, I don't take pictures of all the clothes that I get at 40% off, right?
You got a good point.
And I said,
I mean, it is ego, isn't it? A little bit, or no? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like or it's a memory. I mean,
that's the thing that I told her. I said, well, sure, everybody has ego. We're no different. But I said, but when I look at that picture, I can instantly recall
Right.
the hunt.
That's right.
Without that picture, it might slip off into nowhere land.
Yep.
Right, 100%.
I run across pictures in my phone all the time that I'd forgotten about.
Same. That's oddly enough. Even,
I'm just scrolling through looking for a picture, and I stopped. I'm like,
Ramsey's
where's
like
this?
96 years old, so I mean he's forgetting a lot these days.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Yeah, we're pushing here on an hour, so I just want to be respectful of the time that you guys have given here. Ramsey, I know that, as I understand it, you ask people on your podcast a common question. If you could snap your fingers and change one thing about hunting or duck hunters right now, what would it be? And I don't want to ask you that one, but I want to take a spin. I want to end on a positive note. If you could snap your fingers and you could preserve one aspect of duck hunting forever, and it would never change, what would it be?
Ask Ryan first. I got to think about that.
I mean, I'm in the same boat. I'm like, goodness gracious, if I could preserve one aspect of duck hunting, I mean, it would be duck hunting. Enough ducks to still hunt. I mean, that's a.
It's almost temporal. My personal answer: the best times of my life duck hunting weren't some far-flung country and some far-flung species. Honest to gosh, it was when my boys were little, and now they're grown men. They got jobs and they got to work. Man, if I could preserve anything, if I could go back anywhere, it'd be that period of time where they jumped in the truck and we drove to camp and we duck hunted with those friends and those good times. I mean, it was so life-defining for all of us. And so I can't go back in time. I don't have a time machine. But just that attitude and that feeling and that novelty of, again, it's the full perspective. I can't tell you. I can tell you some stories that maybe we did shoot a limit because it was the food and the camaraderie and the challenges and the good times of going back and doing it. And that's what, to me, is just, you got to accept duck hunting for what it is and what it ain't. And that's, I really can't answer the question the way you asked it, except for that. I have to approach duck hunting every day I go for what it is and what it ain't. And a lot of those good times I remember really didn't have to do with dead ducks. It was everything. If we take everything in duck hunting that we've talked about and that we love about it, and we boil it down to just duck numbers, then all we've got to show for it is a bunch of dead ducks, and that means nothing.
Well, maybe the one thing that you want to preserve.
Everything else.
Well, maybe the one thing you want to preserve is that, you can't go back to that time with your kids, but to know that parents and their kids or grandparents and their grandkids can have that opportunity.
Yes.
So that hunting
Oh,
persists forever.
I do want, it is, duck hunting in America anymore is not so much just a hobby or an activity or a passion. Man, it's a cultural fabric. Right. You talk to the people that I'm looking at out here on this floor at this event, man, it's a part of who they are. It's a part of their cultural identity.
Yeah.
And we need to preserve it. And we need to recruit more people into it. That's just my take on it.
So anything shake loose yet?
Well, I mean, I was just thinking about, memories, somewhat of what he touched on, I don't know, preserving things. Some of my fondest memories looking back that I would, always want to keep is when I was at a young age in East Texas where I grew up, everyone missed the first week of deer season. I missed the first week of duck season. So everyone's gone, and my daddy was one of the few people that duck hunted. Everybody deer hunted and maybe did some duck hunting, but deer hunting came first. We didn't deer hunt. We duck hunted. So, deer season opened, everybody's gone from school that week. Well, then, and I was always sad because we didn't deer hunt, and I'm at school pretty much by myself, and the girls at school, because back then it didn't seem like many of the girls hunted. Well, then duck season came, and, I was gone, and all my friends were at school. Well, that being said, I would preserve those memories for sure. I mean, just going back in those times. As I got older, I realized how special that was to be with my family and my father to go do that. So, but, like you said, preserving memories with his kids and stuff. I look forward to doing this with my own children. My oldest son's 5. I take him everywhere.
What did he tell you the other day?
About wanting to shoot them all? Yeah, he wants to, he wants to get all of them.
I love that. Again,
I'm like, son, well, here we go back to limits and pile picks. I'm like, we just got to shoot what we need to eat. But we eat a lot of ducks in my house, a lot of geese. I make bratwurst, sausages, or have them made, whatever we do. But we eat a lot of deer, elk. We really don't buy much meat. but my 5-year-old is he's going to be quite the savage if he stays on this path. But he loves it. I mean, he wants to go. He wants to hunt. He blows his duck call around the house all the time. I mean, and so that's not something I haven't gone to that to preserve that yet, right? Because he's not old enough to actually shoot. But it's really fun watching this. But those same memories I would look back on. I'd want to preserve in my life.
Yeah.
And,
Every hunter goes. He's gonna be a savage, and he's gonna want to shoot a lot of ducks, and he should. And every hunter goes through it. I think we're just talking about just kind of planting the seed to help hunters get through, some tougher seasons, just to value what's going on there. The one thing I would preserve, if I could, is duck hunting should be tough. It should be challenging.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think that, a few generations ago, they were probably better hunters than we are today. We have technology, better equipment, better clothing, and that can make hunting easier. I think it's a lot easier to go into the big game world. Long distance rifles, variable scopes, ozonics, scent destroying machines, and so I think it's a less of an accomplishment to harvest a deer than it was. Let's just go back 100 years.
Right.
Right. So I think the woodsmanship, the skill of hunting, I don't want that to go away. Right.
100%.
So I also encourage people to challenge themselves every once in a while.
Well, as I said before, I mean, look, I think about the gear that I was wearing when I was 12 years old, 10 years old. I mean, I was wearing hand-me-down everything. My dad was 6'6", and I was wearing his shirts, and nothing was good. Red ball waders or whatever it was, neoprene. I mean, not neoprene, but rubber. I mean, you were freezing to death at all times. And as my dad's, my uncles and them always said, my brother doesn't hunt. He played sports. That wasn't his gig. But my uncle always said, they're like, boy, you must have loved it because you were a glutton for punishment. Because, my old man, he didn't bring an apple. You should have brought an apple because he didn't break for lunch.
Yeah.
Like you went, we were out there, it was a grind. And it didn't matter if he had me with him or not, it was the same hunt. I can remember hearing him off in the woods in the Saline River bottoms in Arkansas calling, and I'm 12 walling, and he's 6'6", he's gone. I can hear him shooting. He'd come back by me, hand me some ducks, he'd go kill some. I mean, it was, and I did love it. And, and he was a woodsman, the point of that. He knew how to hunt. He was a hell of a woodsman. And, so yes, I'd hate to see that go away too. I'm trying to preserve that myself. I'm glad you brought that up. As he taught to his kids, and I hope to teach to mine. And, it was a different time, and they were different hunters for sure.
Yeah.
They didn't have what we have today. OnX, GPS, phones in your hand to tell you where. If I get lost now, then that's the joke's on me.
No doubt.
That's.
Yeah, that is something.
But I like what you say. It should be challenging.
Correct.
It should be challenging. It should be humbling. Some of the most definitive hunts of my life have been just humbling, whether it was the climate or the weather or the scenery or the difficulty in hunting. It's good to be challenged. It's good to be humbled. The ducks got to win sometimes.
That's right.
They have to.
Everything's got to win, right? We don't have any.
Yeah, it'd be boring to just go out and, if I could go out and shoot 6 ducks every day the rest of my life, I probably would. But
I was just saying,
I'm sure it'd probably get boring.
You want to take? Yeah, should we test that? Let's do it.
Yeah. Let's see if we can do that. Yeah. We'll see if we get bored with it.
Well, you guys are fantastic. You did a great job. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and experiences and ideas with the listener. I appreciate it. The most valuable thing we all have is time, and I don't take this for granted that you guys spend an hour with me and with the listeners. So thanks, guys, and
thank you, Joel.
Continue the conversation.
Appreciate you having us.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. You take care.
Yes, sir.